It was an absolutely wild SEC Week 8. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers who are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network as well, broadcasting daily across Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, and of course everywhere on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. All right, we are recapping what was a wild week in the SEC, but we got to start with the big news that popped Sunday afternoon as the University of Florida fired head coach Billy Napier. Napier's tenure comes to an end there in Gainesville after going 22-23 in 4 seasons with the Gators. Was off to a 3-4 start this year, following a rather less than impressive 23-21 win over Mississippi State on Saturday. More on that a little bit later. But Billy Napier goes 12-16 in SEC play, 5-17 against ranked opponents, which included an 0-14 record on the road versus ranked teams. He was 3-12 against Florida's rivals, Florida State, Georgia, LSU, Miami, and Tennessee combined. That is the fewest wins versus Florida's rivals since the 1930s. Of course, a big sticking point for fans, his inability to give up play calling duties. If he had just done that this offseason, handed off play calling to perhaps maybe a young up-and-comer, maybe the offense could have taken off with DJ Lagway and company. I always like to cite, you gotta be mindful. You gotta know when to hand the duties off. Makes me think back to Les Miles when he had Cam Cameron and going, oh no, everything's just fine. Found himself fired the next year. Nick Saban, I always point to as the guy who knew when he needed to change. Went out and hired Lane Kiffin. That was an out of the box move. But Lane knew he had to adapt, had to change. Some guys don't read the room, and sometimes it leads to their downfall. The timing of letting Napier go now makes sense with the Gators heading into their bye before they take on Georgia on November 1st. We had heard rumblings last week that obviously the report came out that Napier was definitely going to be fired with a loss to Mississippi State. But I told you all, I had heard that even with a win, that he could be let go, just simply for the big picture of what he's failed to accomplish with the Gators. And as for his buyout, Florida will owe Napier upwards of $20 million with $10.2 million due within 30 days of the termination. As far as the buyout goes, it's not that bad considering what some other coaches have in their contracts. And when you consider it, Penn State just had to pay James Franklin, what was it, like $50 million to go away? I mean, this isn't that bad, but still, it's lost money. And, it just speaks that that's how bad things have gotten when you're willing to pay a coach that much money to go away. But the numbers speak for themselves, just not seeing that success. I was going back and looking through Napier's years there at Florida and some of the losses. I mean, his first SEC game right out of the gates in 22, he lost to Kentucky. I think that was at home. And just bad loss after bad loss and never being able to get over that hump. They had that nice run to end last season. Obviously, that kind of saved his job. But we said at the time, it saved it just for the time that he was very much on the hot seat coming back into this year. And look, I'll give him credit too. I think he's a good coach. And I think it's just the SEC is brutal, and that schedule at Florida was brutal. I mean, think about it. He was coming in with home series against Utah, where Utah's been pretty damn strong the last 5-10 years under Kyle Whittingham. So, it's like it was just, and then the impossible schedule of Florida State having a couple really good years, and then the SEC grind of having to play Georgia during some of their peak years where they're playing for championship or winning national championships and all this. It was a brutal schedule that he got the luck of the draw with, and it was just hard to overcome. Quarterback struggles. Anthony Richardson ends up being a first-round pick, but never really got to see his full talent on display there. in college, and now DJ Lagway, who appears to be, freak talent, 5-star Mr. Texas, all this, and just has not been able to live up to the billing. So moving forward, the Gators are going to go with wide receivers coach Billy Gonzalez. He will take over as interim coach for the Gators remaining 5 games, which includes the neutral game at Georgia, at Kentucky, who just gave Texas fits, at Ole Miss, top 10 team, home versus Tennessee, top 20 team, and home versus Florida State, which looks pretty winnable this year. So, I look on paper and say Florida's got the talent to beat Kentucky and beat Florida State. But that's just 5 wins. Can they find a 6th win somewhere to get to bowl eligibility? And look, before you trash the idea, look at what some of these other schools like UCLA and UAB are doing right now with interim head coaches. They seem to be performing a lot better. I'm not saying Florida will. I'm just saying, could they? Could Florida play better under Billy Gonzalez? We're going to see these next couple of weeks. But, of course, now we turn to who are some of the candidates for this Florida job. Well, we start with James Franklin. Obviously has a lot of skins on the wall. And while things went sideways there at Penn State this year, guys won a ton of football games. He won 104 and 45 in Happy Valley. 6 10-win seasons or more in the past 9 years. Also led Vanderbilt to 2 9-win seasons prior to a stop at Penn State. Maybe not the top name on Gators fans' list, but I think he would be a very safe hire. And I think he would get Florida back to winning 8, 9, 10 games a year. Would he win a championship there? Probably not. But at least you'd avoid these 5-win, 6-win seasons that Napier was kind of stuck having. Another name on the list, look, again, his name's just going to come up no matter what for every job. It's Lane Kiffin. May still be the ultimate pipe dream. As the latest reports say, he's working on a long-term deal that could make him one of the highest paid coaches in the country, would keep him in Oxford long-term. Rebels have won 10 or more games in 3 of the last 4 seasons. And by the way, they're in great position to do that again this year. And look, programs once feared Lane's eccentricity and outspokenness on social media, but it seems a lot of programs probably willing to look past that because his track record now, he's proven to be a pretty damn good coach, a winner when it comes to coaching football games. Another name on this list, Eli Drinkwitz. Just had back-to-back 10-win seasons at Mizzou. Could be in line to do it again this season. He would have to be interested, and I'm sure he's very happy at Mizzou. But to me, just Florida's a bigger program. More money, more resources, more everything. But also more pressure to win. You always have to think about that. If Drink goes 7-5 at Mizzou, nobody bats an eye. At Florida, you have a bunch of 7-5 seasons, may not go over well. They want to get back to competing for championships. And look, if you know Drinkwitz, he's going to publicly shoot down interest. Well, I'm focused on my team and all this. But you have to think his agent would at least listen to an offer from Florida. A few other names on this list. Marcus Freeman, his name emerged. I think that seems a little bit outlandish. He's in a really good spot at Notre Dame. But money talks. If Florida's willing to make him a top 5 highest paid coach, he would consider it, I would think. Rhett Lashley may seem a little underwhelming to hire the SMU coach, but he's done a great job there, bringing him back to relevance, making the college football playoff last year. Brent Key, the Georgia Tech coach, was really turned around that program, has them back relevant against it at 7-1 against ranked ACC foes since he took over. They gave Georgia all they could handle the end of last year. Remember that one? And he's been part of some championship teams. So, again, that's one. And then, of course, you have some of the up-and-comers like Alex Golish at USF and guys like that. So we'll see what path Florida goes. But here's what's crazy. I mean, Arkansas's open, Penn State's open, now Florida's open. If Auburn opens, I don't know, I don't think at LSU would open. Like, just some of those schools, you got to be thinking, like, if you're Florida, you better start doing your due diligence now. Really start to find who that guy is, because there's some other big jobs open, and you may not get the big fish that you wanted. So this will be fascinating to see. We'll keep you updated along the way. Of course, here on Locked on SEC with all the latest on the Florida coaching change as Billy Napier fired at the University of Florida. All right, when we return here on Locked on SEC, we'll get to our winners and losers from SEC Week 8. That is coming your way in just a second. Hey, but first, we are in the midst of the NFL and college football seasons at FanDuel. They have got an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You'll have all the different ways FanDuel will let you play, from building parlays, player props, even following the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action, whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into all the stats. FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. We tell you every week they got all those SEC games up there, all the SEC Week 9 lines coming out. Those are up there right now at FanDuel.com. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com. Download the FanDuel app today. Get started and get signed up. If you've never used them before, take advantage of that great offer. New customers bet just $5, get $300 in bonus bets. That's at FanDuel.com. This episode also brought to you by our friends at Quo. One of the tools that will help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard us talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table for your business. Whenever customer conversations count, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. Works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying around 2 cell phones or having to rely on a landline. Go see why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That is QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you got an existing number with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. It is Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. All right, roll along here to Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Keep coming back and checking us out each and every day. All right, we do it every week here on Locked On SEC, so let's dive into it. We're going to save our loser segment for next. We're going to be a little bit more positive here. We started with the negative news of Billy Napier. We're going to switch over and do a little positive here. So let's start with our winners of the weekend. And we got to start with Kalen DeBoer, Alabama's head coach. That was left for dead after week 1, the loss to Florida State. But number 6 Alabama defeats number 11 Tennessee 37-20 at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Marked the 4th consecutive win over a ranked opponent for the Crimson Tide. No team in SEC history has ever done that with no open dates or buys, if you will. That is according to SEC football communications director Chuck Dunlap. At the time of each game, Alabama beat number 5 Georgia, number 16 Vanderbilt, number 14 Mizzou, and number 11 Tennessee. That's the last 4 weeks, folks. That is damn impressive. I mean, if I was a betting man, I would have put money that Bama was going to go 3-1, if not 2-2 in that stretch. And guess what? We would have completely understood. We would have been like, that's a brutal stretch. But Bama goes 4-0 in that stretch, 4-0 in SEC play. And the Tide had the nation's highest scoring, held the nation's highest scoring offense to just 410 yards. Tennessee was averaging 529 yards a game. So Alabama now 6-1, 4-0 in the SEC. Bama's final touchdown run, by the way, 5:49 to go. Everybody started smoking, lighting up cigars. Obviously a tradition for the winner in this rivalry. Ty Simpson also lit one up as he left the field. And Alabama's arguably the best collection of wins on a resume, with 4 wins over ranked teams. You know, if we're talking college football playoff and rankings and all this, go ahead and wipe that Florida State game from your mind, because this is just a different team with 4 very impressive resume wins. Nobody else in the country has that kind of resume so far. And look, with Ty Simpson kind of sitting up there as, you know, as one of the Heisman favorites right now, Kalen DeBoer now 15-5 overall in his 2 seasons at Bama, 9-3 in SEC play. Quite a turnaround since week 1. Our next winner of the weekend, I've got Clark Lee and Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia rushed for 86 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns to go with 160 passing yards and a passing score, as Vandy beat LSU 31-24. Pavia went down inside the 5-yard line in the final minutes. That final score could have been worse. and LSU's defense missing Whit Weeks. They had no answer for slowing down Pavia, and Vandy converted third down after third down, even a couple of fourth downs, and their creativity on offense shined as the Commodores rolled to 6-1 overall, 2-1 in the SEC. And now College Game Day comes to town this week with Mizzou coming to town. Who thought Vanderbilt was going to be hosting College Game Day this season? We thought, playing at Alabama, that's the showcase. That's Vandy getting showcased. They're going to get showcased again on national television. Just pretty darn impressive what they have done so far. Another win of the weekend, I'm going with Marcel Reed. The Texas A&M Aggies just keep rolling as they beat out Arkansas 45-42 in Fayetteville following a 2-hour weather delay. But Marcel Reed did not let the delay bother him as he went 23 of 32 for 280 yards, passing and 3 touchdowns, no picks. He also had 55 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Marcel Reed is 4th in the SEC in passing yards. His 15 touchdown passes are tied for 3rd in the league. He has more rushing yards in the SEC than Trey Wisner, John Mateer, and Arch Manning. And he has as many rushing touchdowns as Jeremiah Cobb, Jaden Ball, and Diego Pavia. And the Aggies, they are 7-0 for the first time since 1994, solidified themselves into the top 4 teams in the country. Got to give a shout out to Mike Elko. He's done an outstanding job. Next up, Saturday night, it is a road trip to LSU. And while you may be saying, that's easy, it's a place the Aggies have not won since they've joined the SEC. They lose every time they go to Baton Rouge. So this could be getting over the hump if they are able to win this one. And quite impressive what they have done so far this season. Also, got to throw in a quick shout out to Bobby Petrino. Now 0-2 as interim coach for the Hogs, but 2 close losses. And Taylon Green deserves a lot of credit, man. He threw for 256, 3 touchdowns, got banged up, still came back in this one. If he had any defense to speak of, we'd be hyping Green as one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So, little tip of the cap there to those gentlemen. Another winner of the weekend, I'm going with Gunnar Stockton over at Georgia. He was outstanding, and Georgia's comeback win over Ole Miss as they outscored the Rebs 17-0 in the fourth quarter for a 43-35 win. Gunnar Stockton, 26 of 31 passing, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, also rushed for 59 yards and a score. Stockton leads the SEC in completion percentage at 70.5%. That's tied with Diego Pavia. And his dual threat ability has really helped open up this Georgia offense. All those criticisms of Mike Bobo's OC, not hearing a ton of complaining as of late. Not many Georgia fans complaining with the way that Stockton has the Bulldog offense flying high, averaging 33 points per game, 30 points per game in SEC play. Pretty outstanding stuff. How about over at Oklahoma? They got themselves righted, and we saw signs of hope with an Oklahoma run game. Torrey Blaylock and Xavier Robinson. OU's run game has been abysmal for much of this year, but they got going against South Carolina. They never looked back. Blaylock went over 100 yards rushing with a touchdown. Robinson, 58 yards and a score as Oklahoma beat up South Carolina 26-7 to improve to 6-1 on the season. John Mateer, it's kind of okay, but didn't have to do anything special with the way that the run game was producing. Very impressive there. Another win of the weekend, got to give it to Mizzou. They survive in overtime, double overtime against Auburn on the road. They get the win to improve to 6-1, a 23-17 win. It was ugly. I mean, Bo Prabula didn't play great. Ahmad Hardy was stymied much of the night. Like, you run through the box score, or if you watch the game, I mean, it felt like everything was hard for Mizzou to do. There were penalties. There was all this. But even with mistakes and all this, it's hard to win on the road in the SEC. And Eli Drinkwitz and Mizzou did it. So tip of the cap to Drink. He just keeps doing it, man. 6 wins already. We'll see how many more they can get. Like we said, on the road to Vandy this weekend. Monster setting for them. How about over at Texas? Man, they struggled in their loss or their win at Kentucky, but I got to give credit to, if we're picking a winner of the weekend for them, special teams. Ryan Niblett, outstanding in the return game. 2 punt returns for 88 yards on a night where Texas's offense was atrocious. Niblett did a good job of giving Texas the ball in favorable spots. That ended up being key. And how about kicker Mason Shipley? Stellar as well, going a perfect 3 for 3 on field goals, hit a 53-yarder and nailed the game winner in overtime to get the 16-13 win over Kentucky on Saturday night. Look, they're still alive. Tech's still alive. They gotta get a lot fixed here, and keep winning. We'll talk about Arch in a little bit. Last winner of the weekend, how about Brennan Thompson, albeit in a losing effort, the Mississippi State wide receiver, outstanding. 7 catches, 155 yards. He is 4th in the SEC in receiving yards behind Mario Craver, Chris Brazel, and Omega Blake. He's had a great year so far in Starkville. Florida did win the game 43-21. And then lastly, honorable mention, Florida running back Jaden Baugh ran it for a career-high 150 yards and a touchdown for the Florida Gators. I get it, his head coach gets fired, but Jaden Baugh has had a nice season so far. Still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Hey, real quick, want to remind you about our friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's your 401k, properties, or investments. When you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why we recommend our friends at Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that's going to put your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface. You can use it on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch Money is for you. They're going to do all the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. Again, you're going to love what Monarch Money does for you. Do not let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com in your browser. You're going to get half off your first year. That's 50% off, 50 off your first year at monarchmoney.com when you use our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Check them out today. Don't regret it. monarchmoney.com. All right, Locked On SEC, roll along here. We got to our winners of the weekend, so let's dive right back into it. Let's get to our losers of the weekend. And, man, it's hard not to go here. And, frankly, I'm a little bit surprised that Hugh Freeze is still the head coach at Auburn. But following a 23-17 loss to Mizzou at home in double overtime, Hugh Freeze remained adamant that Auburn is close to turning some of these close losses into wins. But problem is the fans, you've kind of lost their support now. Hugh Freeze saying after the game, I know we're close. I know we're going to get over the hump. I know people are tired of hearing it. I'm tired of saying it. Yes, Hugh Freeze, people are tired of hearing it. And fans, they're asking John Cohen, let's just get this thing over with, pull the trigger, and let's fire Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze's tenure on the Plains, he is 2-8 at home in Jordan-Hare Stadium against SEC teams. Every one of those 8 losses has been by 10 points or less, which means, they're close, but you're not getting any closer. That's the problem. It's like you keep saying you're close, but you keep losing and losing and losing. And it's a team that failed to hit the 20-point mark for the 15th time in 32 games under Hugh Freeze. Offense was supposed to be his specialty, and it is not. This Auburn football program, a lot of people just say they deserve better than this. A 5-15 record in SEC play and 32 games into Hugh Freeze's tenure. He is 14-18 overall with losses in 10 of 19 home games. Not getting it done. Depending on when you're listening to this, I mean, maybe a change is made, but as of when we're recording this, no change made yet. But Hugh Freeze at Auburn seems to be dead man walking. Everybody in an Auburn jersey seems to be out on Hugh Freeze. Another loser of the weekend. How about Brian Kelly? Dropped their second loss of the season on Saturday, falling 5-2 on the season, 2-2 in SEC play at LSU. And look, you kind of have to sometimes take a step backward because you got to look at the grand picture and go, it's not awful. A lot of teams in the SEC would love to be 5-2, right? Hugh Freeze would love to be 5-2, but Brian Kelly came to LSU selling them on, I'm coming here to win championships. And the team spent the most money in the transfer portal this offseason. They returned one of the best quarterbacks in college football, and Garrett Nussmeier, who's been super disappointing, and an offense that has sputtered. And losses already to Ole Miss and Vanderbilt, still games ahead against A&M, Alabama, Oklahoma. here's the thing. Brian Kelly's 34-13 in his time at LSU, 19-9 in the SEC. Again, not terrible, but this isn't what, LSU fans want 9-10 wins a year and compete for a championship every couple of years. And they don't seem to be getting there. By the way, LSU would owe Brian Kelly the 8th most expensive contract in the country, totaling $53.3 million if they terminated him early. So everybody out there saying, oh, fire him. Brian Kelly's not going anywhere, at least anytime soon. So he's got to figure out how to get this thing going, whether that's making a change, offense coordinator, whatever. He's responsible. He's got to turn this thing around. So, we'll be talking more on LSU. I got to fill in the coming weeks. Almost a must win against A&M this Saturday night. Hey, that undefeated team from College Station, you have to beat them. I mean, that's kind of what it is, LSU. How about another loser of the weekend? I'm putting Pete Golding in here. We knew Ole Miss lost a ton of talent off that defense last year, but they were riding high, 6-0 on the season, number 5 team in the country. But I still had some questions about how good that defense was. I mean, they lost a ton from last year's team. Their offense lifted the hype, up to the hype. They went toe-to-toe with Georgia and Athens, but the defense, the Achilles heel in this one, giving up 17 points in the second quarter, 17 points in the fourth quarter, and Georgia went on to beat Ole Miss 43-35. Georgia puts up 510 yards of offense. They were 6 of 11 on third downs, and the Ole Miss defense forced no turnovers, just 1 sack. Another tough challenge this week as the Rebels will head on the road to take on a feisty Oklahoma bunch. John Mateer maybe starting to feel healthy again. We will see in that one. Another loser of the weekend. I hate to do it to this poor kid because he's been having such a great year, but Joey Aguilar. It is impossible to blame a loss on one person in a football game, but Joey Aguilar's mistake at the end of the first half against Alabama, about as bad as you can get. Down 16-7, Tennessee was on the Crimson Tide's 1-yard line with 9 seconds to go in the half, no timeouts, so they had to throw. And Aguilar threw the ball, faked the handoff, short arm to throw to tight end Miles Kitzelman, and it cost him. Xavier Brown from Alabama jumped the pass, intercepted it inside the 1, took it all the way down to the other side, and evaded the only volunteer that could have stopped him. 99-yard pick six to end the half. And I mean, that put it out of reach. And after the game, Tennessee lost 37-20. Josh Heupel made it clear. He said, look, end of the first half, 9 seconds, no timeouts. You're left with a decision. Do you want 2 opportunities or 1? So we got a little play action. He leaves the ball a little inside, goes back for a pick 6. Big play in the football game for sure. Like, I'm not one to, throw a guy under the bus, whatever. But look, it was, what do you want him to say? It was a big play, and your quarterback made a dumb decision, and it cost you. So, all you can do is put your arm around him and go, hey, hopefully we get him next time, right? Joey Aguilar. But big loss there for Tennessee. Thought they would be more competitive in that one, but give Alabama credit. They brought it. Another loser of the weekend. I'm putting Mike Shula in here. The South Carolina offense. Look, their offensive lines had injuries, don't get me wrong. And Lenore Sellers, it's been an up and down year. But South Carolina managed just 7 points and just 224 yards of offense in their 26-7 home loss to Oklahoma. You combine that with just the 10 points of offense in the loss to LSU 2 weeks ago. And the Gamecock offense just really struggling. They fall to 3-4 in the season. Shane Beamer asked after the game about Shula's play calling. He said, like any game, there's calls you like to have back. He addressed the obvious lack of points. He said, I'm sure Mike had some, but at the same time, what we call, we got to go execute. It wasn't good enough. None of us were. And that made, know what's being called. There are plays there to be made. So, again, tough there on Mike Shula. Another loser of the weekend. I'm putting Kentucky's goal line offense. I got to give Kentucky a lot of credit. We were at this game, gave Texas all they could handle. Cutter Boley threw for 258, rushed for 45 yards in the score, and Kentucky's defense held Texas to just 93 total yards in the first half. But it was Kentucky's goal line offense that came up short in overtime. They hit Kendrick Law for a big play down to the 3-yard line. And the Longhorns come up with a goal line stand at their own 1-yard line, stopping the Wildcats on 4 straight plays inside the 5. Steve Sarkisian said after the game, what a tremendous goal line stand in overtime. What a tremendous job by our special teams. Half the SEC lost today, and we were on the other half that won. That happens when 8 SEC games are happening, and it's SEC versus SEC. Half the league is going to win, half the league is going to lose. That's just math. But Sark's right. They were on the winning side of it, so I guess there is that. Another loser of the weekend, I'm putting Arch Manning in here. I mean, the Longhorns managed just 179 total yards of offense. Arch threw for 132. He was 12 for 27 passing. He got sacked 3 times. And this is crazy. Arch Manning ranks 13th in the SEC in passing yards, 16th in completion percentage. And look, no doubt, he was overhyped coming into the season, but he has been just plain bad for much of SEC play. The hope would be that he eventually gets comfortable and starts improving here, but it's been just bad. A few more in here. We'll squeeze in Blake Shapin. Blake Shapin didn't play a bad game in the Swamp, throwing for 324 yards, but he made the worst play at the worst time. The Gators, 3-4 on the season. They intercept Blake Shapin's pass in the waning seconds when the Bulldogs were in field goal range. Defensive tackle Mike Mackay Boyro got the pick, sent the home crowd into a frenzy. If the Dogs could have just held on to the ball, they would have had a chance for a game-winning field goal to beat Florida. Instead, Florida hands Mississippi State their 15th consecutive loss in league play. Arkansas defense, our last loser of the week. Bobby Petrino doing a great job with the offense, but the defense absolutely putrid. They gave up 45 points in a loss to the Aggies. This is after they gave up 34 in a loss to Tennessee, 56 in a loss to Notre Dame, 32 in a loss to Memphis, and 41 in a loss to Ole Miss. They fired the defensive staff a few weeks ago. I get it, but it didn't seem to make any difference. This unit is just awful. They were dead last in the SEC in points allowed per game, dead last in yards given up per game, and 15th worst in all of college football. Should bode well for some struggling quarterbacks like Garrett Nussmeier and Arch Manning, knowing Arkansas is coming up on the schedule in a few weeks. And lastly, let's take a look at our AP poll for Week 9. Updated, we've got 3 SEC teams in the top 5. Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, Texas A&M 3, Alabama 4, Georgia 5. So which of those 2 do you think are going to get to Atlanta and represent the SEC? A&M, Bama, or Georgia? Take your pick. Then you got Ole Miss coming at number 8, Vanderbilt at number 10. Vanderbilt is a top 10 team, folks, in the year of our Lord, 2025. Oklahoma comes in at 13, Missouri at 15. Looks like Mizzou can't get much respect. 15? Thought they should be a little bit higher than that. Tennessee comes in at 17. LSU falls down all the way to number 20 after their loss to Vandy. And Texas still hanging in there at 22. I don't know how. They did not look like a top 22 team in that loss or that win over Georgia. I'll get it right, Kentucky. But there you have it. Those are your SEC teams. What's that? 8, 9, 10 teams ranked in the top 25. There you go. All right. Hey, a reminder, check out Locked On SEC, our simulcast daily on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. For any of our listeners who live in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, catch us weekdays at 11:30 a.m. Central on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, home of the New Orleans Pelicans and home for Locked On SEC. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. Everybody have a great day. We'll have more tomorrow on the aftermath of Billy Napier being fired at Florida.